I trusted her with my secret, and she used it to destroy my marriage. My mother-in-law smiled as she watched my husband pack his bags. But what she didn't know was that I'd been recording everything. Now it's my turn to smile. My name is Rachel Torres, and I'm a dental hygienist in Phoenix. I thought marrying into the Valdez family meant gaining a second mother. I was so wrong. The perfect daughter-in-law, I spent 3 years trying to win her approval. 3 long years of smiling through backhanded compliments and pretending not to notice when she corrected everything I did. Every Sunday dinner at the Valdez house, I brought her favorite tres leches cake from the bakery on 7th Street. I'd carry it through the door like an offering to a queen, watching her face for any sign of warmth. She'd hug me and call me mija, pulling me close with arms that felt more like a trap than an embrace. But her eyes were always cold. They'd scan over me like I was something she was inspecting for flaws, and she always found them. Your hair looks different today, mija. Did you try a new style? Translation: I don't like it. This cake is wonderful, though maybe a little too sweet. Translation: You still can't get it right. My husband Marco said I was imagining things. He'd laugh and kiss my forehead when I brought it up on the drive home. Mom loves you, Rach. She's just old-fashioned. Give her time. I wanted so badly to believe him. I wanted to believe that love and patience would eventually crack through that ice in her eyes. So I kept trying. I showed up early to help with cooking. I asked her advice on everything from curtains to career moves. I complimented her garden, her cooking, her wisdom. But no matter what I did, I could feel her watching me, waiting, like a cat waiting for a mouse to make one wrong move. I just didn't know yet that she was already planning to pounce. Looking back now, I can see all the signs I missed. The way she'd ask Marco to help her with something whenever he and I were having a good conversation. The questions that seemed innocent but dug just a little too deep. The way she smiled when I stumbled over my words. She was studying me, learning my weaknesses, and I handed them to her on a silver platter. The secret I kept before Marco, I had a different life that nobody knew about. A life I'd worked hard to leave behind, buried under legal documents and a fresh start. I wasn't running from the law or anything dramatic like that. I was running from pain. I changed my name legally when I turned 21. Rachel Marie Torres used to be someone else entirely, someone who grew up in a house where love came with conditions and cruelty. My birth family wasn't the kind you see in movies. There were no happy holidays or proud graduation photos. There was just survival. The documents were locked in a safe deposit box downtown at Desert Valley Bank. My original birth certificate, the court order for my name change, a few photos I couldn't bear to throw away but couldn't stand to look at. I visited that box once a year, just to remind myself that I'd escaped. I told myself the past was buried forever. I'd built a new life with my own hands. I put myself through hygienist school, made friends who knew nothing about where I came from, and met Marco at a community barbecue 3 years ago. He fell in love with Rachel Torres, the woman I'd become, not the girl I used to be. Then I made the mistake of confiding in her. It happened slowly, so slowly that I didn't see the trap closing around me until it was too late. She'd ask casual questions about my childhood, and I'd give vague answers. She'd press gently like she cared, like she wanted to understand me better. Family is everything, mija, she'd say. It's so important to know where we come from. I should have heard the warning in those words. But all I heard was a mother-in-law who finally seemed interested in me, tea and lies. He invited me over for tea, just the two of us, on a Thursday afternoon when Marco was at work. I remember feeling so happy when she called. Finally, I thought. Finally, she wants to connect with me. I felt so grateful that she finally wanted to bond. I bought fancy cookies from the bakery and wore the blouse she'd once said looked nice on me. When I arrived at her house, she had everything set up in her sunroom. Fresh flowers on the table, her good china, even little cloth napkins. I wanted us to have some real time together, she said, pouring the tea with a smile that looked almost genuine. Just us girls. We talked about easy things at first, the weather, Marco's promotion at work, her garden. Then she shifted, leaning forward with this concerned look on her face. She asked about my family, my childhood, my real name. You never talk about your parents, mija, she said softly. Are they still alive? Do they live far away? My throat tightened. We're not close. That's so sad. Her hand reached across the table to pat mine. What happened? You can tell me. I'm family now. The words spilled out before I could stop them. Everything I'd kept locked away came pouring out in that sunny room over chamomile tea. I told her about my childhood, about changing my name to escape the memories, about the family I'd left behind and why I never spoke to them. Her smile grew wider with every secret I shared. "Oh, Mija," she whispered, squeezing my hand. "Thank you for trusting me with this. Your secret is safe with me." I actually believed her. I drove home feeling lighter, like I'd finally found the mother figure I'd always wanted. I even texted Marco. "Had tea with your mom. It was really nice." He sent back a heart emoji and wrote, "Told you she loves you." I didn't know that while I was driving home, she was already on her laptop, already searching, already digging up every piece of my past that I'd tried to bury. The hunting had begun, and I was the prey, the unraveling. Marco came home late on a Tuesday night, his face twisted with anger I'd never seen before. He didn't kiss me hello. He didn't even look at me at first. He just walked straight to the kitchen and stood there, breathing hard. "Marco?" I set down the book I was reading. "What's wrong?" He threw photos on the kitchen table, scattering them across the surface like accusations, pictures I'd never seen before. "Who are you, really?" he shouted at me, his voice cracking. My hands shook as I looked at the photos. They were old, some of them nearly 15 years old. Pictures of me as a teenager with a different last name. Court documents showing my name change. Even a photo of the house I grew up in, the one with the peeling paint and broken porch. I looked at the photos and felt my world collapse. "Where did you get these?" I whispered. "Does it matter?" Marco's eyes were red. "You lied to me, Rachel. Or is that even your real name?" "It is my real name. Legally. I changed it and—" "My mother told me everything," he cut me off. "She said you've been lying since the day we met. She said you're probably hiding more than just a name change." His mother, of course. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't get enough air. "Marco, please let me explain. Yes, I changed my name, but I didn't lie to you. I didn't tell you about my past because it was painful. You didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth." His voice was cold now, distant. "How am I supposed to trust you?" I reached for him, but he stepped back. That small movement broke something in me. His mother had dug up everything I'd buried, twisted it into something ugly, and fed it to him like poison. "She went through my things, Marco. She had no right. She's my mother. She was worried about me, about us." He grabbed his jacket from the chair. "I need some time to think. Marco, please don't leave." But he was already walking toward the door. Packed bags and broken vows, Arco wouldn't listen to my explanations. He came back the next day, but not to talk. He came back to pack. I watched from the bedroom doorway as he threw clothes into a duffel bag, moving through our closet like a stranger. "Marco, please, just sit down and let me tell you everything. The whole story." "I don't want to hear it." He wouldn't even look at me. His mother sat on our couch, watching me cry with satisfaction, barely hidden behind a mask of concern. She'd let herself in with the spare key Marco had given her years ago. The key I'd asked him to take back, but he'd said I was being paranoid. She told him I was a liar and a fraud, each word delivered in that sweet voice she used when other people were listening. "Marco, mijo, I only showed you those things because I love you," she said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "A mother has to protect her son. What kind of woman hides her entire past from her husband?" "The kind who was trying to survive," I said through tears. "The kind who built a new life from nothing." But he believed every word she said. 3 years of marriage, of building a life together, of loving each other, none of it mattered. His mother's poison had seeped into every corner of his mind. I watched him throw his wedding ring on the counter. It bounced once and then spun in a circle before falling flat. The small clink of gold on granite was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. "I'm staying at my mother's house," he said, zipping the bag. "My lawyer will contact you about the divorce." "Divorce?" The word felt like a punch. "Marco, you can't." "I can and I will. I can't be married to someone I don't even know." His mother stood up, smoothing her dress. She walked past me toward the door, and for just a second, when Marco wasn't looking, she smiled at me. A real smile this time, victorious. Then they were gone, and I was alone in the home we'd built together, surrounded by the wreckage of everything I'd loved. The recording after they left, I sat on the couch for hours, numb. The house felt too quiet, too empty. I kept expecting Marco to walk back through the door and say this was all a terrible mistake, but he didn't come back. Then I remembered the nanny cam I'd installed last month. We didn't have kids yet, but we'd had a break-in scare in the neighborhood. I'd put a small camera on the bookshelf, disguised as a regular book, aimed at the living room and the hallway leading to our bedroom. Marco had said it was a waste of money, but I'd insisted. I'd put it there to catch a break-in, but it caught something better. My hands trembled as I pulled up the app on my phone. I scrolled back through the footage day by day. And then I found it. 3 weeks ago, on a Wednesday afternoon, when Marco and I were both at work, I watched my mother-in-law going through my desk, pulling open drawers with practiced ease. She wasn't frantic or nervous. She was methodical, like she'd done this kind of thing before. She photographed every document in my safe at home, the small lockbox where I kept important papers. She must have found the combination somehow. Maybe she'd watched me open it during one of her visits. But the footage got better. The camera picked up audio too. Her voice was clear, talking to someone on her phone as she rifled through my private papers. I'll get rid of her one way or another. Marco deserves better than some nobody with a fake identity. Once I show him who she really is, he'll leave her, and he can find a proper wife. Someone from a good family, someone like us. I played it back 3 times, making sure it was real. Each time her venom was just as sharp. Each time her satisfaction at destroying me was crystal clear. She hadn't been protecting her son. She'd been plotting against me from the start. Maybe from the very beginning, from the first Sunday dinner when I brought that tres leches cake and tried so hard to make her like me. For the first time since Marco had thrown those photos on the table, I felt something other than grief. I felt anger. Cold, focused anger. If she wanted to play detective, fine. I could play too. Digging into her past too could play the detective game. I wiped my eyes, saved the camera footage to 3 different locations, and opened my laptop. I wasn't going to let her destroy my life without a fight. I hired a private investigator with my emergency fund, the money I'd been saving for a rainy day. Well, it was pouring now. The investigator's name was Frank Martinez, and he had good reviews online. Former police detective, specialized in background checks and surveillance. I need everything you can find on Patricia Valdez, I told him over the phone, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. Everything? He asked. Everything. No detail is too small. Within 1 week, he found things that made my secrets look innocent and almost boring by comparison. Frank called me on a Friday evening. Mrs. Torres, you should probably sit down for this. My perfect mother-in-law had her own buried past, and it was ugly. Patricia Valdez had been Patricia Moreno before she married Marco's father. She'd been married once before that, to a man named David Chen. That marriage had ended badly when she'd been caught embezzling from the family business, David's father's restaurant. The charges had been dropped because the family didn't want the scandal, but David had divorced her and she'd left San Francisco in disgrace. She'd moved to Phoenix, changed her social circle entirely, and met Marco's father at a church event. She'd never told him about her first marriage or the embezzlement. As far as the Valdez family knew, she'd been a respectable single woman when she and Ricardo had married. But Frank had found more. Documentation of a restraining order from David Chen's family. Records of credit card fraud from 20 years ago that had been settled quietly. Even evidence that she'd lied about her education. She'd never actually graduated from college like she claimed. She's been hiding something much darker than a name change, Frank said. You changed your name to escape trauma. She changed her identity to escape consequences. I stared at the documents he'd emailed over. Bank statements, court records, testimonies from David Chen's family. Everything Patricia Valdez had spent 30 years burying was now spread across my laptop screen. Thank you, Frank, I said quietly. This is exactly what I needed. Now I just had to figure out how to use it. Not for revenge. No, this was bigger than revenge. This was about the truth. About showing Marco who his mother really was. About making sure she couldn't do this to anyone else ever again. The family meeting, I called Marco 3 days later. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice cautious. What is it, Rachel? I need one conversation, 1 hour of your time. You owe me that much. He was silent for a moment. I don't think. Please, Marco, if you ever loved me at all, give me 1 hour. Bring your family if you want. Bring your mother. I have things you all need to see. Maybe it was something in my voice, or maybe he felt guilty, but he agreed. Fine, tomorrow at 6, at my mother's house. His whole family showed up at his mother's house the next evening. Marco, his mother, his father, Ricardo, his sister, Carmen, even his uncle, Tony. They all sat in Patricia's living room like this was some kind of intervention, like I was the problem that needed to be solved. I brought my laptop and a projector I'd rented from an office supply store, the kind presenters use for business meetings. I also brought a folder full of printed documents, just in case. She looked at me like I was already defeated, sitting in her armchair like a queen on her throne. She had the same satisfied smile she'd worn when Marco packed his bags. She thought she'd won. "Rachel, we're all very busy," Patricia said sweetly. "What is this about?" "The truth," I said simply. I plugged in the USB drive and pressed play. The room went quiet. The projector hummed softly as it warmed up. Marco looked confused. His father looked annoyed. Carmen was checking her phone. Then the image appeared on the wall. Patricia Valdez, clear as day, standing in my living room 3 weeks ago. The timestamp in the corner showed the date and time. "What is this?" Patricia's voice had lost its sweetness. "Just watch," I said. Truth bombs. The screen showed her breaking into my home and everyone in the room went still. There was Patricia, letting herself in with the spare key, looking around to make sure she was alone, then moving directly to my desk like she knew exactly where she was going. Her voice echoed through the living room, full of venom, crystal clear through the camera's audio. "I'll get rid of her one way or another. Marco deserves better than some nobody with a fake identity. Once I show him who she really is, he'll leave her and he can find a proper wife. Someone from a good family, someone like us." Marco's face went pale. His father, Ricardo, stood up slowly, staring at his wife like he'd never seen her before. "Mom?" Marco's voice was barely a whisper. "You broke into her house?" "I was protecting you." Patricia stood up, her face flushed. "She's a liar, Marco. She's been lying to you since... by breaking into our home. By going through her private papers?" Carmen looked disgusted. "There's more," I said quietly. I stopped the video and opened a new folder on my laptop. Then I played the investigator's findings about her. Each slide was more damning than the last. First marriage to David Chen, the embezzlement charges, the quiet settlement, her own name change from Patricia Moreno to Patricia Valdez, carefully hidden in records across 2 states, the restraining order, the credit card fraud, the lies about her education and her past. Marco's face went pale as he learned who his mother really was. Not the respectable woman who'd raised him, not the proper lady who judged everyone else's morals, but someone who'd been running from her own mistakes for 3 decades. This can't be real," Ricardo stammered, but he was looking at the official documents on the screen. Court seals, bank statements, everything verified and documented. She tried to leave, but Marco blocked the door. "Is it true?" he demanded. "Any of it?" Patricia's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Her face had gone from red to white. Finally, she whispered, "I did what I had to do to survive, just like she did." "No," I said firmly. "I changed my name to escape abuse. You changed yours to escape consequences. There's a difference." Carmen was crying. Ricardo had sat back down, his head in his hands. Uncle Tony was reading through the printed documents I'd brought, his face grim. "You destroyed my marriage," I continued, my voice shaking now. "You turned your son against me because of secrets from my past while hiding your own. You broke into my home. You violated my privacy. And for what? Because you didn't think I was good enough for your son?" Patricia finally found her voice. "You weren't. You aren't. You came from nothing. You have no family, no background. And you're a criminal," Marco said quietly. His voice was cold and hard. "You're exactly what you accused Rachel of being. A fraud." The room fell silent, except for Carmen's quiet crying. My new beginning. Marco begged me to come back, but I said no. We met at a coffee shop 2 weeks later, and he looked terrible. Like he hadn't been sleeping. He probably hadn't. "Rach, please, we can start over. I believe you now. I understand why you didn't tell me about your past." He reached across the table for my hand, but I pulled away gently. "Marco, you chose to believe your mother over me. When it mattered most, you didn't even give me a chance to explain. You threw your ring on the counter and walked away." "I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Please." I shook my head, tears burning in my eyes. "I spent 3 years trying to be good enough for your family, for your mother, and it was never going to be enough. I can't live like that anymore. She's gone. She moved to Dallas. Dad is talking about divorce, too. He said it like it was supposed to change things. That doesn't fix us, Marco. Trust isn't something you can just rebuild after it's been completely destroyed. His mother moved to her sister's house in Dallas 3 days after the family meeting. Ricardo stayed in Phoenix, but the word around their community was that divorce papers would be filed soon. Patricia's perfect reputation was in ruins. People talk, and in a close community like theirs, the truth spreads fast. The divorce papers I filed listed her interference as the cause, along with Marco's abandonment and lack of trust. My lawyer said it was one of the clearest cases she'd ever seen. Marco didn't contest anything. I got the house, my dignity, and my freedom back. The house felt different now, but it was mine. I painted the walls, rearranged the furniture, and made it a space that belonged only to Rachel Torres, the woman I'd chosen to become. Now I'm rebuilding my life on my own terms, secrets and all. I kept my job at the dental office, where my coworkers rallied around me when they heard what happened. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected while trying to be the perfect daughter-in-law. I even started therapy to deal with both my past and my present. The safe deposit box downtown still holds my old documents, but they don't scare me anymore. They're just papers, evidence of survival, proof that I had the strength to rebuild once, and I have the strength to do it again. Sometimes I see Marco around town. Phoenix isn't that big. He always looks like he wants to say something, but he never does. Good. We've said everything that needed to be said. As for Patricia, I heard through Carmen that she's living quietly in Dallas, working at a grocery store. Her sister apparently wasn't as welcoming as she'd hoped. Karma, I guess, has its own timeline. I learned something important through all of this. Secrets have power, but only the power we give them. Mine were weapons used against me because I was ashamed of them. But they were also proof of my strength, my ability to survive and rebuild. Patricia's secrets, on the other hand, were proof of her character, or lack thereof. Trust is fragile. Family can hurt you worse than strangers. And sometimes the people who judge you the hardest are hiding the darkest truths. But I'm still standing, still healing, still building the life I deserve. And that's a victory Patricia Valdez can never take away from me.